Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you the next President of the United States, Jeb Bush.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is a joy to be here. This is day 3 of my candidacy, and I can't think of a better place to be than Pella. It is a beautiful city. You all should be very proud of it. And people were complaining that this is humid. You're obviously you're not from South Florida. This is like Arizona to me. This is a beautiful day, and I am so excited to be here. This morning I was in Washington, Iowa. Washington, Iowa is a little different than Washington, D.C. It's pretty. The people there are hardworking. They don't think that they're the masters of people. It's not the most prosperous place in the world. In the United States, sadly, Washington, D.C. is. I don't know if you know this. Washington, D.C. has the highest per capita income in the United States. Washington, D.C. has average home values of $800,000. Washington, D.C. doesn't have unemployment. Washington, D.C. has federal workers making significantly more than the private sector workers for like-kind jobs. Washington truly believes that it is the master of us rather than its servant. And the next President of the United States needs to reverse that trend and put it back where it should be, which is our servant, focus on doing fewer things, but doing them much, much better. I know that it can be done, because I've done it. There are a lot of people running for president, a whole lot. And many of them are my friends, and they're talented people for sure. But in all honesty, and I have this feeling when I'm starting to brag a little bit, so I got the looming figure of my mom behind me. Is she back there? I think she is. She's about telling me to be careful, don't start bragging too much. But what the heck, if I don't toot my own horn, no one else will, so here goes. I got to be governor of a purple state. I'm not kidding, purple. 500,000 more Democrats, I think, registered than Republicans. But Republicans win when we have a message that is hopeful and optimistic, a conservative message of limited government, of reform, of fixing the things that are broken and then getting out of the way and letting people pursue their dreams. When I ran for governor, I said what I was going to do, and then I was governor, I did what I said I was going to do. I know that's a novel idea in the current political environment. I said that government income shouldn't grow faster than personal income. Think about that. If we had as a strategy in this country at the local and state level, which it happens more often than not, and in Washington, D.C., that the size of government wouldn't grow faster than our ability to pay for it, in essence, we would have a government that would be more humble, would be smaller. Our incomes would grow. In this recovery, the so-called recovery in the 6th year, we have declining median income. For the first time in American history, a recovery, there's less money in people's pockets. But in Washington, they're doing quite fine. Well, in Florida, we reversed that kind of formula. We cut taxes every year, totaling $19 billion in 8 years. And by the way, we don't have an income tax to cut. So it required a little creativity to cut those kind of taxes. But guess what happened when you cut taxes? It created more economic activity. The government did just fine. It grew at a 2.2% rate, but personal income grew at 4.4% per year rate. And there was $1,000 more money in people's pocket in the 8th year than when we started, in real terms, counting for inflation. Those $1,000 could be spent on a child's education. It could be spent on taking a vacation for once. It could be spent on whatever people wanted to do. America at its best is when people pursue their dreams as they see fit and that they have the opportunity to do it. In Florida, because we shrunk the size of government, we reduced the workforce by 13,000 people, 11% fewer. We created an environment with smarter regulation, with lower taxes, that 1.3 million private sector jobs were created. More than any state in the country other than California, a state significantly larger than Florida. It can be done because I've seen how you do it. You start with the premise that limited government is better than bigger government. And then you reform the things that are broken. In Florida, we were literally 50th out of 50 states in high school graduation rate. 50% of our kids were graduating from high school. Imagine that. Think of the world that we're in today and the world we're moving towards when you can't read and write and calculate math. I'll never forget, I was with a 12th grader when I was running for office in 1998. And he was in the remedial class preparing for an 8th grade level aptitude test to graduate from high school. 8th grade level. And the question that he was struggling with was, a baseball game starts at 3 o'clock and it ends at 4:30. How long is the game? 9 innings is not the answer, by the way. He couldn't answer that question. Where do you think that child's life is going to be? In the world of increasing global competitiveness, where knowing how to think abstractly, where you challenge assumptions, where you learn to work collaboratively, where you have a sense of why history matters. All those things that are important, this young man would never be able to attain it because he never was given a quality education. We didn't raise expectations in Florida until I got there. We didn't have any accountability. We excused the way why so many kids didn't learn. Now, this is not a federal government program, but the passion for fixing the things that are broken, we need in Washington, D.C. And I fixed the education system in Florida, and it now has had a graduation rate that has improved each and every year. It is at the national average. Low-income kids in Florida do better than their counterparts across the country. In fact, on the 4th grade NAEP test, the Nation's Report Card test, Florida went from 29th out of 31 in 4th grade reading to 6th out of 50 in 10 years. It can happen if you fix the things that matter. When you're governor, you have to make tough decisions. You have to balance budgets. I left the state with $10 billion, close to $10 billion of reserves. The state was better off fiscally, and it was certainly better off economically because we challenged and we reformed things, and I made tough decisions. One of the things they call me, and by the way, the unions, the teachers' unions, the bureaucrats, they call me a lot of things I can't repeat here because this is a G-rated audience, I think. But the one thing they did call me that I was quite proud of was Veto Corleone. Because I vetoed 2,500 separate line items in the budget, totaling $2 billion to bring order and discipline to the budget process. And the legislature, which was my partner in all of these reforms, finally got it. They understood that their role wasn't to bring back pork, or we called them turkeys in Florida. I assume you call them pork here. It wasn't to do that. It was to limit government and to create a better environment and fix the things that were broken, and Florida's better off. Imagine a Washington, D.C. with a president that was trying to forge consensus rather than tear people apart. A president that had the humility to be able to recognize that people that may not agree with him, they're not bad people, they just have the wrong ideas. But you can listen to them and you can get creative and you can figure out a way for Democrats and Republicans to begin to forge consensus again. We can talk about how bad things are over and over and over again. We can do that. But a child in Baltimore that is wandering aimlessly, that has no sense of purpose in their lives, we're not going to improve their life. Or a farmer in Iowa that sees the massive regulation in their lives overwhelming them, making it harder to make ends meet. Or a small business person here in Pella that's looking for a better environment where we have higher sustained economic growth. Their lives aren't going to be better if we just argue about it, if we just divide our country. I believe we need to start fixing things again, and if we do, this will be the greatest time to be alive in this world. Two more things. It's possible for this great country, this extraordinary country, we still are. We're still a spectacular country. I know you love this country as much as I do. We're not hitting it on all cylinders right now. We're not at full capacity in terms of our potential, but we can do it. In fact, we're one of the few countries that could be young and emerging and dynamic again. We're one of the few countries that could grow at 4% rather than this pathetic 2%. that is now choking off opportunity for young people and for everybody in this country. A 4% strategy would mean that you have to reform how we tax, reform how we regulate, embrace the energy revolution in our midst, fix a broken immigration system that is a drain rather than an economic catalytic converter for higher sustained growth, fix our entitlement system, and do all of this, we could grow at 4%. And if we grew at 4%, I just guarantee you the whole debate politically would change. No politician could get away with dividing the country because everybody would believe that their chance was going to be bright because there was opportunity in front of them. People would be motivated to dream bigger dreams. The fact that we have permanent poverty in this country would begin to be altered, where people would have a sense that they could rise up. The fact that we've now had 15 years where the middle class has had declining median income, declining income in their family budgets, would begin to change and we'd have it lifted up. I think that is a worthy aspiration. And for the cynics that don't think so, let's go prove them wrong. Secondly, in order to create high sustained economic growth and also to be confident that the United States should lead, this is a symbiotic relationship, if you will, we need to be strong in the world again. We have pulled back from our commitments and we've created an uncertain world. These new asymmetric threats of terror ought to be called for what they are. These are barbarians. Islamic terrorism has captured a religion, and we should stop saying that it isn't that, it is that, and we should create a strategy. The next president, if this one doesn't want to do it, the next president has to create a strategy to take out ISIS in cooperation with the neighbors, do it in a strategic way, stick with it over the long haul, and re-engage again, not as the world's policeman, but as the world's leader. Here's the test. James L. Butler, you may have to answer this if no one does, okay? Name a country in the world where our relationship is better today than the day that Barack Obama took office and the day that Secretary Clinton became Secretary of State. You won it. You heard me before. You got it. That's exactly right. We were together this morning. Cuba and Iran. Name another country. Our strongest trading partner, Canada? No. Japan, worried about the relationship that has always created stability in Asia? No, because the United States no longer is committed, at least in their minds, that we're committed to the region. If you travel like I did last week to Poland and the Baltic states, no. If you look at Egypt and certainly Israel, our strongest ally in the Middle East, no. Across the board, when we pull back and create uncertainty, we do not create a more secure world. And we need to, if you want to create a more peaceful world, we have to rebuild our military, provide support for our veterans, make it clear to our allies we're in it for the long haul, and be committed to it. And that's how you create a more peaceful world. By doing the opposite, we're creating dangers that we'll have to, over the long haul, take care of. So finally, one last point. I'm a committed conservative, a reformer. I have a record. And I get to go share that record each and every day, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it with joy in my heart. I'm going to do it with love for this country. I'm going to do it in a way that draws people towards our cause. Here's the deal. I don't know calculus that well, but I can do addition. In order to win in a two-person race, you got to get 50%. In order to get 50%, you have to bring people along. You have to have a message that draws people back to the conservative cause. You have to go campaign in places where they haven't seen a Republican in a long, long while. You have to do it in a positive way rather than just tearing down the country and tearing down people that don't agree with you. If we do it right, we will be able together to change the direction of this country and restore its greatness and make sure that the covenant, the contract that every generation has to the next one will be fulfilled again. That our children and our grandchildren will have more opportunities than what we had. We're on the verge of the greatest time to be alive, and it's now our turn to fix a few big complex things, and if we do it, watch America take off. Thank you all very much. By the way, I've had a great week. I got to kick off a campaign in my beloved hometown. It was wild and raucous, just as Miami always is. I went to New Hampshire. I went to the Jimmy Fallon show. That'll be on my highlight reel the rest of my life. I did the news. I slow danced the news. It's pretty cool. And then I'm here in a state that I really love. So thank you for welcoming me to your beautiful state. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have before we all just melt away. My mom. Well, my mom just turned 90 last Monday, and she's doing well. I actually think, and a lot of people in this, I think a lot of people will appreciate this. Many of us are in the sandwich generation, and you know, it's when your parents get older, you have to refocus. My mom is a spectacular caregiver to the greatest man alive, and so I think it's actually strengthened her, and she's doing spectacularly well. She's still calling the shots in our family, and my dad is frail, but still alive. Mentally, he's still there. Spiritually, he's in a great place, and so I'm blessed with fantastic parents. And I got a pretty darn good brother, too.